Hello and welcome to our session on the new era of business planning. We'll just give it a minute for folks to join and then we'll get started. Great. Well, welcome. My name is Teresa Cargill and I'm the CEO of Achieve Unite, and I'm delighted to have with me today Jessica Baker, our Chief Partner Officer, and Bob O'Malley, our Executive Principal. And the interesting thing about Jessica, Bob, and I is one of the most rewarding things that we do at Achieve Unite is collaboration. And more minds are better than one mind. And when I think about what you're going to see today in the new era of business planning, it truly is a result of me as a previous channel chief and now an advisor to companies, Jessica as a previous programs leader in a number of software companies and now an advisor to companies, and Bob O'Malley as a previous CEO in a number of different channel-oriented companies and distribution and IBM, and now an advisor to companies. And so hopefully you're going to see a really tangible perspective on business planning. So one other note, you'll always see every 90 days we change our image, and this week and this quarter it is a bridge. And that bridge is reflective of sometimes we have vendors and folks on one side, and then our partners might be on the other side, and we're not always speaking the same language. So the bridge is our image for how we build the bridge between our various constituents. So with that, life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated, Confucius. And really, this is the theme of what you're going to see today about business planning, because business planning has become a very complicated, robust, in many cases not executable process that we have to get away from in today's day and age. So just to give you some statistics to go alongside this, according to our research that we did with the University of Glasgow around Partners for Life, we interviewed over 150 channel leaders across the world. 75% of them gave vendors a C or lower for business planning. And some said companies are absolutely failing in this arena. Companies that plan effectively grow 30% faster than those that do not plan. And partners are poor planners. 3 out of 4 of them have no strategic plan. They may have a joint business plan. The ones that do will outperform those without 2 to 5-fold. So with that, let me turn it over to Jessica, and she's going to walk you through the top 10 mistakes vendors are making as it relates to business planning today.
Thanks, Teresa. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. So the very first one that we want to talk about is thinking that MDF and incentives are substitutes for planning, right? So MDF and incentives are great, but these are really short-term endeavors. It's the low-hanging fruit. So these things have no long-term business alignment or strategy development. So I guess what we're saying is that MDF and other incentives can be part of a business planning exercise, but these items alone cannot take the place of true business planning with partners. So that's the first one. Second one is not earning the right to lead the session or forgetting the importance of socialized relationships. So you have to earn the right with partners to be able to have specific conversations, right? You have to build the trust and the relationships. Partners aren't just going to open up the kimono if you send them some random email. So if you want them to be truly open in the spirit of planning, it requires trust. It requires commitment. There is no value to building a relationship based on revenue alone, right? This is psychology 101. And I've always said that channel account managers have more responsibilities beyond what a traditional sales role would have, and that they have to be the masters at the art of building relationships. And they have to understand that you have to first meet the needs of the person that you're talking to and understand their world, understand their customers, understand their competitive world before you can have a meaningful conversation with them. So if you want to lead the conversation and lead the session and have that strategic seat at the table, then you need to understand the importance and the value of the relationships that you build. That's number 2. Let's go on to number 3. So poor preparation for planning, or not preparing or getting everybody right at the table. So in the book Simplicity by Bill Jensen, he has a great quote, and he says, "A plan is nothing more or less than a tool to have a conversation." And in order to have that conversation, you really have to understand your audience, right? The partner and their business. What makes them tick? How do they make money? What are their strategic goals? You need some sort of intelligence before you walk into that meeting. And when you do walk into that meeting, you need representation from the business across all different lines of that business. Think about it: sales, marketing, finance, technology, support, from both sides, partner and vendor, right? All of these people need to contribute and buy in to what this business plan is laying out for the partnership and the relationship, right? I can remember a great example of a massive failure in my past. I had a channel account manager who was responsible for a very large, very strategic partner of ours. And the business plan was done, the box was ticked, the signatures were on it. But when it came time to actually execute on the actions, one of them was to have this meeting of the minds, a technical meeting of the minds, and to talk about co-development or some customization to product that would be specific to this partner. It was a pretty big deal. We got all the stakeholders to the meeting. We had people flying in from all over. It was a big, big dog and pony show. But the meeting actually failed within like the first 20 minutes. None of these technical guys had buy-in. No one had the same vision. It was a complete failure. And what happened to that CAM and the relationship? They had to go back to square one, right? They had to rebuild the relationship, rebuild the trust, because it was completely gone from both the partner and the vendor side. It was just bad all around. So it's very important that you are prepared for the conversation and that you have the right people at the table for these discussions. Number 4, the wrong calendar timing for the partner, or not planning on the vendor cycle, or not at their convenience, right? So timing is everything, right? It's everything. And these sort of artificial timelines that don't map to the rhythm of the business of the partner will never be complementary. They will always be disruptive. So, as a vendor, if you have fiscal years and quarters and things like that that don't sync with a partner, it's never going to work. It will always be disruptive. And so for that matter alone, the value overall is going to decrease, and you're going to have less alignment across the parties. As a vendor, you have timeframes in mind, and I get that, but we need to allow that channel account manager to be the expert and to navigate those timeframes and those deadlines and align them with the partner as best as possible. This false sense of urgency that they have to create to get things done, especially from that partner experience perspective, will not go over very well at all. And that brings me to number 5, right? Not enough planning time spent over the horizon on strategic or capital investment opportunities. So business plans really need to look beyond this quarter I've seen a lot of short-sighted business plans with really the lifespan of 1 quarter. And while I recognize that you need to do short-term, you also need to look at the long-term goals. And I'm talking 3 to 5 years, strategic investments, capital investments, those types of things help to align you and understand the bigger picture of the partner. So if you're missing those long-term goals, you're actually missing long-term alignment, which is not good from either side of the business. Which brings me to number 6, right? Too much time spent on reviewing past performance and not being future oriented. So at the same time you're looking forward, are you spending too much time looking back? If you do, if you spend too much time looking back, you're never going to look forward. So what happens when we create a business plan? So you can think about that sort of process in your head. Most people are thinking, well, we go into this rhythm where we do quarterly business reviews, right? QBRs, it's a very common term in our world. But think about it. Why are we reviewing? And why are we not planning? So maybe QBP doesn't have the same ring to it as QBR, but as much as we can learn from the past, we shouldn't be planning for the past. So I'm sure you guys have heard the term, right? Revenue is a lagging indicator. And trust me, I've had some heated debates with clients over this term lagging, as it may or may not have a negative connotation in your mind, but it really is. Lagging revenue is a past indicator. So while it's an indicator of what has happened and it's an indicator of what might happen, it's not the only metric to use. So last year, and Teresa talked about this earlier in her leading slide, we did this study called Partner Lifetime Value, right? And we worked with the University of Glasgow. We had this hypothesis, this theory, and we did a research study, and we went out and we were looking at what are those hallmarks for long-term value and loyalty. We call it partner lifetime value. You might have heard of customer lifetime value. We call it partner lifetime value. And this was the way that you approach the partner relationship and the activities that you do, like business planning, right? These things can predict long-term success, sustainable revenue, and loyalty for the partner and the vendor. And we actually did just that. We had our hypothesis, we had some ideas, and we statistically proved that these leading indicators, things like enablement, marketing engagement, investment, and planning, were the best predictors of success than looking at the lagging indicator of revenue. So don't spend too much time looking back. Make sure that you look forward. Which brings me to number 7. I love this slide. Trying to implement an overly complex planning methodology. Let me tell you, I have seen some beautiful examples of complexity in my time. And it's not the program's fault entirely. When you start about this practice in a company, everybody wants to pile on, right? Everybody wants their piece of data, their program, their concern, actionable in this program. Well, before you know it, you have an Excel workbook with 17 different sheets asking 140 different questions. And don't laugh, because that's not an exaggeration. But what's the partner experience when that thing hits the partner's desk, right? Not very good. So you can create complexity within the plan itself. You can also have complexity in how you go about doing it. Who does what, when, where, why, how, on what platform, what's automated, what's not, what's self-service. Planning for the program and the policy is one thing, but when your processes and your platforms don't align, it's not good. When you have too many manual steps, too many approval levels, too many pieces of, albeit virtual, paper, it's all noise. And it, quite frankly, makes it very easy for the partner to object to even sitting at the table with you. So while your intentions may be good to start, don't let the complexity take over, please. Number 8, There's another great book called Alliance Advantage, and the quote is very simply, value capture is equally important to value creation. And if the biggest objection to business planning that your partners put up is time, then you have a value problem. If partners want to skip it, or if they don't think it's a priority, then the CAM really hasn't done their job to articulate the value in the exercise. Why are you doing this? What are the benefits? We have a business planning CAM workshop that we do, and we go really deep into this topic because you have to map this exercise in a partner's mind. You have to map the business plan with business value and business success. It's not an administrative exercise, and I've seen it approached like this too many times. So if your CAMs are not capturing and linking the value in the plan, then this is a big mistake. Number 9, failing to find true alignment. So just like the mistakes of failure to find true alignment with your partners, how do you build value? So you build value when you're aligned on goals. So if you can picture, a Venn diagram, right? You've got one circle are all your goals, the things that you want to get done. Another circle is all the partner goals and the things that they can get done. And where you can contribute to a partner's goals, that area, that's where you start to overlap in that Venn diagram, right? That's the sweet spot. And the more that you can overlap, the more alignment that you'll have. And that alignment builds trust, it builds loyalty, and that cycle just feeds on itself again and again and again until you're overlapped as much as possible and you're really truly aligned. So if you fail to try to find that true alignment, then you're going to fail, period. And the last one that I'm going to leave you with is number 10, which is lacking the execution component of failing to realize that the execution requires organizational behavioral change, and you have to connect the reward process to the change management process. Oh boy, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? You can have the best plan, you can avoid all of the mistakes 1 through 9, but when you fail to execute on the plan, that's when it falls down. So plans sometimes, and probably most times, right, require people to change or adopt new behaviors. And changing organizational behaviors is hard stuff, right? Being a change agent, championing a new initiative, a new way to do something, a new goal, a new program, a new product, anything, it's just hard. So you can reward the change in the behavior when it's done right. These are the little levers within your program that you can push or pull to reward behavior and make that change agent's job a little bit easier. Think about it. If you're, introducing a new product, does your business plan include things like sales training around the new product, marketing kits, technical demonstrations? What do you have as a vendor to give to the partner to make the execution of the plan as easy and as valuable as possible? Without execution and reward, the plan will provide no value and it will die on the table. And that is definitely not what we want, especially if we did everything right up till this point. And that is our 10 mistakes that vendors are making. And now I'd like to introduce Bob O'Malley, who's going to take us through the 10 habits that vendors need to adopt now. Bob?
Only 5 habits.
Oh, sorry, 5. You're right,
Yeah,
5.
we go from 10 that we're doing wrong to 5 that we're doing.
5.
Take it away, Bob.
Yeah, we are on our path of simplification, going from 10 to 5. And Jessica, thanks for the handoff. I'll quote one of your favorite characters, Yoda, and what Yoda said to Luke. Luke, there is no try, there's only do or not do. So Jessica has told you what the not do things are. Let me tell you what the do things are. And habit number 1 is identifying the superpowers. By superpowers, we mean where are the value nuggets? As David Noor in Relationship Economics said, with every interaction, we all promise value. as that value is delivered, you begin to exchange relationship currency. So think about it as a reservoir, or you think about it as a Venn diagram example that Jessica just gave you. And our intent is to take that overlap that exists naturally, and over time to make that overlap bigger, to have more dependencies on each other as the partners, as relationships in life matter as well. There are two dimensions to relationship value. One is at the company level, company to company, and that value is typically transaction based. So one of your objectives, obviously, is to make your transactions grow. That also is very much in sync with the partner, assuming the partner is making money off of your transactions or has some other inherent value coming from the transactions. But an equally and over time more important element of or dimension of value is the relationship dimension, and that's between individuals. That's between your CAM and the owner or CEO of the partner and other key executives in the partner. Very often, we in this industry move people around a lot. And when we do that, we have to realize that we are breaking trust or breaking the potential for adding to this reservoir, bringing these two Venn diagrams closer together. Another important reason to be able to unlock the value is that the channel is shifting. It's shifting from vendor value to customer value or benefit. So we also understand that the customer presents its needs and its requirements through the eyes of the partner. So view the partner now as an aggregation of customer needs. So let's move on to habit number 2. It's balance, and again, it's balance between the past and the future, as Jessica pointed out, too much looking in the rearview mirror. It's also a balance between operations and tactics and strategic. And I've been fortunate enough to be either a president or CEO or chairman of 6 different organizations, and in every one of those organizations, we changed the whole planning process. Now, again, this is just inside of our organization. When you bring partners into the planning process, it's even more important that this balance is struck. What we always tried to do is to have 1/3 of our planning discussions on operational issues. Typically, that's numbers, that's revenue numbers, it's quality numbers, it's inventory turnover numbers, those kinds of things. We then tried to spend 1/3 of our time on tactics. And tactics typically are what you want to do to accomplish the next few months or a few quarters, but it's typically bounded by a 1-year horizon. And then we tried to spend 1/3 of our time on strategic issues, issues beyond the horizon. And these issues, again, might fall into the realm of transactions. What are products or services that the partner needs or anticipates needing going down the road? How can we simplify the interaction on the services we deliver through our partners? It also could be on the personal side, on the individual side. It could be for does the partner want to transition the business into a lifestyle business? Does the partner want to sell their business in 5 years? Does the partner realize they need to move to new offices to expand? All these things should be brought into the planning process. And as Jessica said a few minutes ago, the more beyond the horizon things that you can connect on, the longer and stronger your partnership will be. So that's balance. Now let's move to number 3. Number 3 is the power of 3. The power of 3 is the rule of 3. The idea is to identify 3 outcomes that you want to achieve for the year, then 3 for the week or month, and then 3 for the day. So get the sense of the power of 3. It simplifies the whole process, and it forces prioritization, and it makes communication a lot easier. People can remember 3 things. People can do 3 things. If your list ends up being over 10, or even over 20, there's no way that planning initiative will be internalized and will be acted on. I remember running a company, and we were clearly in growth mode, and we decided that our objective was to sell, pick a number, $10 million every day. We had this problem with the hockey stick. At the end of the month, we'd sell a lot. At the end of the week, we'd sell a lot. And from an operational standpoint, that just cratered the people in the warehouse and cratered all sorts of other activities. So we decided that we would make our mission to do our business every single day. And we started to post a chart. That was something very easy to communicate. It was the power of one in that case, but it was very simple. It was very measurable. And every morning, everybody took a look at how much we sold the previous day. And the hockey stick went away. The hockey stick at the end of the month, the hockey stick at the end of the week. And in order to do that, we had to communicate intensively. We had to put rewards on making daily metrics, but it was all worth it. It just changed the entire culture of the company, and it was the power of a few, let's say. A recent Harvard business study found that 3% of the graduates of the Harvard MBA program, only 3% had their goals written down. These 3% ended up earning 10 times as much as the other 97% all put together 10 years after graduation. So again, the horizon of 10 years is simplicity of putting a few goals down and remember the power of three. Okay, let's go to the next, which is 4 seasons of planning. It's just a statement that planning is not a one and done kind of a thing. It is a continuum, just like the seasons are a continuum. As Jen said earlier, you want to also plan on our partner's cycle, not on the vendor cycle, or a compromise cycle where it would be convenient for both of you to plan. I can remember that Cisco had their year end in July, IBM year end in December, Microsoft year end in June, Hewlett Packard year end in October. So all these companies, different initiatives wanting to come, yet we did our planning at that time. We did our planning in January. So it's important to understand the cycles and then to follow the process through as we've described here. And I think the four seasons are a good illustration. You know, you prepare, you run the planning session, you have follow-up and action items, and again, the power of three comes into play here. And then when you find success elements, you need to celebrate. These are reward mechanisms. Remember, we're changing behavior in this process. We need to make sure that there needs to be a celebration. There needs to be a reconciliation of the things we didn't do very well and a learning process. And the vendor ought to consider themselves as the facilitator, as the teacher in going through these 4 seasons of planning. Okay, last one, number 5. And again, we've already broken our rule. We said the power of 3, rule of 3. We've given you 5. So what you can do with the 5 we've given you is pick 3 that you want to implement. But simplification is kind of an overreaching, arching kind of an aspect of the planning process. And that's simplification for the vendor as well as for the partner. Now, we all believe in standardization. We all believe in automation. But at the same time, there has to be a level of customization here. We have to be able to sit down and listen to the vendor and listen to the partner and identify what is the right way for us to approach it. In the book that Jessica quoted earlier, Simplicity by Bill Jensen, he surveyed 32 of Business Week's top performers. These are companies that you would all recognize, Fortune 500 companies, in what he called the Search for Simpler study. And what he found in there that there were 4 primary obstacles to searching for simplicity. And 2 of these 4 were in the area of how we operate internally. One was how we communicate both the process, the requirements, and the results of the planning process. And secondly, how we work together as teams. Now, these studies were done on the basis of a corporation, you know, the same paychecks, the same business cards, the same security badges. When you extend that planning process to partners, it's even harder to make this thing simple. So this is where the channel organization needs to sit down with finance and needs to take the reins to say, listen, we are going to make our planning process simpler. What are the core elements you and finance need from this process? And then we need to package it, and we need, again, train and to be the facilitator and help the partner understand how to accomplish a few things. Again, that's back to linking the value, which we mentioned earlier. But overall, the process has got to be very simple. And I guess our rule of thumb here is start with a one-page working document. And get your plan on one page. That way, everybody can carry the plan in their folders or briefcases or wherever they carry things. They can post things on wall. You can end up with taking the 3 key elements out of that and do the power of 3, the rule of 3. Well, there's a lot here, and as I said, you need to pick and choose what's good for you. But we just went through the 5 habits, and now I'll turn it back to Teresa.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you all. I know we've had a few questions on the polls, so in your Zoom control panel, if you just click on polls, you should be able to answer just that one simple question. We would love your input today. Good. All right. So we have talked about, the mistakes that we see commonly made among vendors and companies with channels. And by the way, that's also, we're seeing many large integrators having their own partner ecosystems now and starting to adopt complex planning. So this is a process, a program that really needs to be simplified in this day and age. Where do you begin? I would encourage you to assess your current strategy, assess your current planning, seek input, qualitative and quantitatively, on whether you're effective in that planning. Focus on the partner experience, partner experience, partner experience, partner experience. Really strip away the unnecessary items. What are the things that are nice to have, but they're not must-haves in this process? And we have a proven method that we now use for planning that we're seeing really work with companies and show results, because it's highlighting actions. It is really focusing on the value and the follow-through. So we introduced and have trademarked a concept called StratActs. And StratActs are clear actions. They combine strategy and action into one. They are results oriented, they are value oriented, and they are very simple. The RACI model, of course, applies here. And our business plans are visual, and they're in a one-page, believe it or not, a one-page model. So I encourage you to think about this. We will have this webinar available for organizations on our website by Monday. If you're looking for a company, we're looking for companies who are interested in transforming. We love complexity, and how do we take that out of organizations? You can engage with us, obviously, any one of us at any time. Please feel free to email or contact us. We do training, workshops, and education programs customized for an organization around their business planning. We also do assessments on what your current business planning is and how you might, specific areas to improve your business planning. And then, of course, we do facilitation with strategic partners and actually getting the 2 companies at the table and doing it right first time. So with that, I really thank you. If you have any questions, you can also type those in the Q&A poll here, and we will make every effort to answer those questions. And again, that's on your control panel. So we had one question, which was, and I'll address this both to Jessica and to Bob. When you think about these business planning templates, many companies are using, they have multiple tabs, or they've got automation systems that they're using. How does automation fit into this business planning process?
Yeah, that's a great question. Automation can really help to simplify your process, but your process has to start off simple. Automation won't make a complex process simpler, if that makes any sense. And there are a lot of great platforms that are out there. We have on our team Reagan Wilson, who's an automation expert, who can help guide you if you're evaluating them or if you're implementing them. They really can play a big part, because not only can it document, it can automate, it can help the partners self-serve, it can bring visibility across multiple people, because then the business plan isn't in a, locked away on a file on a Google Drive somewhere, right? It's usually front and center. Executives can look at it, management can look at it, things like that. So I'm actually a big proponent of using automation and platforms in the business planning process, but that alone will not save you. Your first step has to be simplicity to start with.
Great, thank you. So we have another question, which is, how do you educate? A lot of our CAMs, they have it their way and they want to do it their way. And it's not just the CAMs, it's often the executives in the organizations that have, this traditional way of business planning, which we all know in many cases isn't working. How do you drive change in a company so that they might adopt practices like this? Bob?
Well, I think it starts with that is the essence of the question, because the way planning got started was around MDF and around incentives, and they were all vendor-centric items to be addressed. So I think it's time for the channel organizations to step up and say, wait a second, these partners are extremely valuable for a lot of reasons. We have to start listening to these partners. So planning can't be a one-way street. It's got to be a two-way street. Now, with that having been said, finance, operations, marketing, what is it you need from the partner? And again, give me three things that you need from the partner. So let's keep the rule of three at play here. Then the channel organization has to say, okay, I can get you those three things, but it's going to take me a couple of years to get to that point. Here are the things I can give you today through the planning process. And because this is a journey, as we said, it's 4 seasons and it's year after year after year. We're into behavior change, and that behavior change is not just with the partners, it's also internally with the stakeholders and what the partners. And wouldn't it be great if the channel account manager were paid on not just the company's, the vendor success, but where the vendor and the partner intersect, the success of that intersection. What better way to grow that trust that Jessica referred to and to grow the partnership over time? We don't need necessarily a lot more partners, but we need more loyal and more committed partners, and that level of commitment goes both ways.
Great, thanks, Bob. Another question, what techniques do we have to engage our sales teams in the process? Their goals are often very short term, and many times the discrepancies happen because of rushed sales decisions. So, what recommendations, and I'll have each of you make an offer, and then I'll also add to that question.
So I think the operative thing right there is that their goals are short term. So if you can, because a channel account manager needs to also focus on the relationship, not just the revenue that comes in, right? Revenue's that lagging indicator. The channel account manager needs to focus on those long-term objectives as well. So their compensation needs and their goals need to be around that as well, not just revenue. So that would be my first recommendation.
Yeah, another reference that we didn't talk about during the webinar was Jordan Lewis wrote a book called Partnerships for Profit, and in that book he said it is a critical error not to realize how differently a partner sees the world. So that level of difference needs to be echoed throughout the entire vendor organization. So it's time to get sales on board. As I said earlier, it's time to get finance and operations on board as well.
And the other comment that I'll make is, in this day and age, right, we don't have a lot of time for training. And for those of you that know our company well, we have really adopted some new initiatives for how we train and how we educate, and more importantly, how we shift behavior. And so, I would encourage you to look at, nothing changes without a vision, a strategy, accountability, and you have to help them and educate them and take them on the journey with you. So I would encourage you to invest in that arena if you're looking to shift behavior of your teams in this. Good, I think we have one more question. What best practices do you suggest to help get company support for partners when they're a minority of the overall business? And this is a great question. So, you know, Bob and Jess, we have companies that we do business with where partnering is, you know, 10, 20% of the overall business, or maybe it's just getting started, and a couple of our clients is just getting started in the organization. So how do you recommend the folks here leverage planning when that's the case?
Well, it's a great reference to sports and business. In sports, somebody else makes the rules, and you have to follow them. In business, through segmentation, we can make our own rules. We can make the rules so that we win. So my advice would be to take a look at the segment of your market, the customers you're going after, for which partners are essential. It may be small business, for example. It may be some other markets that are niche focus oriented, for which partnerships are critical. Focus on that, and in those areas, then the partner is the king. And it's I think we have to toot our own horn in the channel organization. We have to raise our visibility in the vendor hierarchy so they understand the importance. Teresa and I are going to work with a client here in a couple of months, and we're going to be training all of the salespeople on how to partner better, and the importance of partnership. And that training has been endorsed by the senior executives of the company. So there's all of a sudden a recognition in many places that partnerships are critical, maybe not across the board, but in certain markets, they are partners of the king.
Well, the other point on that one is we have a client who we partner with who is really learning the channel and how to partner effectively in their organization. And this process and this initiative is catching steam, and it's catching excitement. And the organization is saying, wow, this is a much easier way to partner. So all of a sudden that team is getting credibility, right, Jess, in their organization because of the new way that they're doing things. So, you know, consider that as well in how you build your partnering. You can be the example for the rest of the company.
Yeah, I think you both touched on the importance of executive alignment with your strategy and with your goals, right? Because if the company isn't supporting the partners, then you have to ask why you have partners to begin with. So whenever we approach an engagement in our Accelerate methodology, we always start off in the strategy side of the house, right? Because we want to understand exactly what the company wants out of this relationship with partners. What are their goals? And you can get into some of those segmentation things that Bob was just talking about and get 100% executive alignment and buy-in to this process before you start actually, you know, rolling in automation and creating a program and hiring channel account managers and a channel chief and all that kind of stuff. Like, let's put the horse before the cart, and that helps. And sometimes you don't know enough to do that. And so we walk into companies a lot and, you know, they're already down the road, and we have to say, okay, let's just step back and let's go back to, you know, step one, which is strategy, and let's figure out this. And then that helps to pave the road for the rest of the execution across all different, you know, places within the company.
Great. Thank you, Jess. And thank you so much for joining today. Please contact any one of us if you have any comments or questions. We love your insights. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any need at all, we'd love to help you. Thank you so much and have a terrific day.
Thanks.